What have these last few weeks been like for you, and just going from high school coaching to being up here, big move, and just getting everything together and situated?
Yeah, it's been a speedy transition. I came around the first of the year, was here for a little bit, and then traveled back to Texas and did some recruiting there. And so I've done more traveling here in the last month and a half or so than I have in quite some time. But just awe-inspiring, to be honest, to have an opportunity to be a part of this university and in this football program and meet the people in this community. It's been an awesome journey thus far.
Coach, I'm curious, with your success in the high school ranks, had you had a lot of college opportunities before, and what was it about this opportunity that drew you to Nebraska?
Well, I think anytime you surround yourself with great people, and it's amazing what those good football players will do for a guy's career, and we did have a great deal of success, which offers and provides opportunity, but the timing wasn't right. Some of that was family related. My kids are older now. I've got a senior son. And at the end of the day, it's Coach Matt Rule, a great staff that I've had a chance and a pleasure to get to know in the last month and a half, and it's the University of Nebraska. That's different.
Hey Bob, Mitch Sherman, The Athletic. How closely did you pay attention to what Coach Rule did at Baylor when you were close to him, and also the success that high school coaches in Texas had in going to join his staff? What kind of an impact did that have on you and your decision?
Well, paid very close attention. In fact, one of the very first schools that Coach Rule with Joey McGuire visited on the recruiting trail was Martin High School, and so our relationship began at that time. Got an opportunity to take a step back and watch that program grow and develop. Have a tremendous amount of admiration for not only the development of the team and the individual athlete, but also the approach that Coach Rule takes with the development of the human being. And that's right up my alley.
Bob, Andy Kennedy from KTV. I know that you probably think, I'm guessing, that you can learn a lot, but what can these coaches that have been established in the college ranks learn from you, and what do you hope that they learn?
Well, no question that there'll be a great learning curve for me. But I have been a head coach for 26 years. I've been a high school coach for 31. With that has come all different types of human beings, different types of kids, different types of coaches, different types of schools. And so I hope that experience gives me the opportunity to bring some value to the program and bring some value to the coaches and kids that are in it.
Hey Bob, Brian Christopherson with Huskers 24/7. What's your early read on the tight ends room you're taking over? I know you're just getting going, but what's
Sure.
your early thoughts on it?
Well, my early thoughts are it's all about building a relationship with these guys right now. And I've had a couple of opportunities to have dinner with them and sit down individually, build those relationships. You can't have rules without relationships. And so that's the phase that we're in. My early impressions are I look forward to seeing them every single day. I can't wait to have the opportunity to coach them. And more importantly, I can't wait to have an opportunity to build a lifelong relationship with the guys that I coach.
Hey, Bob. Luke Moore from Lincoln Journal-Star. Getting Ismail and Jeremiah here, what were your conversations with Coach Rule about, what they bring to the roster, and what have you seen from them?
Well, I think the first thing for me to get here was to have an opportunity to be around the roster, to be able to make that assessment. And I actually reached out to Coach Rule before I came here and shared my thoughts on those two guys. I think they both bring, first and foremost, a great attitude into the locker room and a willingness to do anything they can to help the team, which I think is a welcome addition to any program. But both of them dynamic athletes and guys that I think will come in here and very humbly work really, really hard to try to bring some value to the program as well.
You've, of course, been back to Texas just since you started here to recruit. What's the reception been like when you've gone around in a different role and gone into high schools and been with Coach Rule and other assistants in Texas? What have you seen?
Well, it's been great. It's been a homecoming for me. Obviously, I've put a lot of years in there as their peer, and I'm still their peer. Guys, I'm always going to be a high school football coach. I just happen to be coaching at the University of Nebraska now. And so that aspect of it, the personal aspect of it, was exactly the same. But I'll also say that I think those coaches that are there, the high school coaches in Texas, the high school coaches around the country, when one of us has an opportunity to make a step like this, we root for each other. And so I was very grateful for the reception that I got from those guys. And then obviously I think anytime you come in and wear this brand and walk in with Coach Rule, it's a thrill for those kids and a thrill for the high school coaches that you visit with.
Coach, Tom Stilton, World Herald. Nebraska used to have a relationship in the state of Texas, got a lot of players over the years. But ever since they joined the Big Ten, I think it's just been a feeling like they can't get the kids to come up here in the cold weather as much. Is that true? Do you think can Nebraska get back down to Texas again and get the pipeline going again?
Well, I know we've made a great effort in the last month. We had coach in Houston. We've had a coach in the Waco area. I spent most of my time in Dallas-Fort Worth and deep East Texas. So there's a conscientious effort. Can we bring the Texas high school football player to the University of Nebraska? We're banking on it.
Coach, Brady Holtman from Hill Varsity. I know you've also got a very eclectic special teams background. What is kind of your philosophy there, and how do you manage to make plays there on that end?
Well, I just think that's an X factor at any level. I'm really excited about the opportunity to learn from Coach Foley and then work with Josh Martin in that phase as well. And all of us will have a hand in that. But I do think that's an area where you can create some separation. We made a living on it at the high school level, and I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to bring value in that regard here as well.
About Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald. We're talking to Garret McGuire today too. I guess I'm curious, you've known about Garret maybe as a player in Texas in high school, or just what he's been like as a coach to work with?
I've known Garret since he was a young boy, and I would consider that family. Joey and I have been friends for a long, long time. We coached against each other when I first arrived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in 2006, built a relationship from there, and I've had an opportunity to watch him grow up and not only be an outstanding teammate and player at the high school and college level, but a really, really sharp, driven young coach that's going to be wildly successful here and in the future.
Before this job, had you ever been to Nebraska before? Had you followed the program closely at all in your time as a college football fan?
Oh, absolutely. Now I'm in my early 50s, and so my recollection of Nebraska football is, Thanksgiving night and being 15, 16, 17 years old, and there was only one show on TV, and had a tremendous amount of admiration for it. Our first trip to Nebraska, my wife, my family, and I, our two kids, tripped up here right before Christmas, had a chance to snoop around a little bit and go out to dinner, be in the community, check out some of the different high schools. So, yes, we did our homework before we made this trip.
You kind of hit on this earlier, but what beyond the football part made you gel with Coach Rule, even when he was at Baylor, or when you first met him, that made that relationship sort of take off? And you're like,
well, I just think, again, like-minded in regards to not only the development of the athlete, but development of the human being and challenging them to be the very best teammate, the very best person, the very best player that they can be. And that's right up my alley. I'm a character development guy. I want the very best for those that I coach with and those that I get to coach. And so most of our conversations were always about human development before they were athletic development.
You talk about knowing Garret McGuire for a long time. I'm curious, has he given you any advice just about making that jump from high school coach to college and some of the challenges that go with that?
Oh, we've had dozens of conversations, Coach McGuire and I. And again, I think the Texas high school football circle is a tight one, especially when they're close friends. And so, yeah, they've been great resources for me.
What's Joey told you about looking out for Garret and helping him out?
Garret doesn't need any looking out for, I will assure you. He's very, very well prepared, and you're going to see that here in a second.
Bob, do you think that you can get the Myles Garretts of the world to come to Nebraska? Do you want to compete for the best kids in Texas here over time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just a small part of this job, but certainly I have great familiarity with the state of Texas and the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we've got a brand to be able to go in there and create a great competition to draw the very best players into this program, this school, and this university.
What does it kind of mean to you to have your son Gage, be a part of the program too, and kind of continue that relationship with him?
Well, I think coaching profession is a challenging one, just from a standpoint of time. You know, it takes a great deal of time to do the job well. And I've been blessed in regards to being able to have my family as a part of every school and community that we've ever worked at and for. And this situation will be no different. You know, I have a son in the program, a wife and a daughter very supportive of what we're doing, and have them very, very close to me is, I couldn't and wouldn't want to do it any other way.
Coach Lauren Michelson, Channel 8 News here in Lincoln. You talked a lot about player development being something you want to bring to this team in this tight end room. What other values do you want to install in this group of players?
Well, certainly player development, and want them to have a chance to be the very best player that they can possibly be. But at the end of the day, if all we teach is blocking and tackling, I think we've sold them short. And so I want to teach them how to be a good dad. I want to teach them how to be a good husband. I want to teach them how to be a great teammate and a great employee. And our meetings will always start with that, human development before player development.
Having come from the high school ranks so recently, do you feel like that gives you a unique perspective on the recruiting trail, having been around these high school kids and knowing exactly what they're going through?
I think certainly there's some uniqueness from a recruiting standpoint in the fact that I've been on the opposite side of the desk, and so I've seen a lot of coaches come through. I've seen their interactions with players, and so yeah, I do think that provides a unique perspective for me. And had a chance to learn a great deal while I watched that process happen over the course of the last quarter of a century.
What can you share about the vision that you have with Coach Satterfield, with Coach Rule, about the tight ends and their usage in this offense?
Well, we're just getting started from an X and O standpoint, but we're busy at it. And I do know, just based on past history, that we're going to use multiple tight ends. We want to be physical. We want to create a new line of scrimmage. And I'm very, very excited about the opportunity to have an impact on this offense with the guys that we have in that room.
I'm curious, how familiar were you with Thomas Fidone? I know you had worked with the high school All-American games and things before. Was he a guy on your radar that you knew about even before you came to Nebraska?
Oh, absolutely. And again, we'll make that assessment as we move forward over the course of the next several months. But yes, the great players, they pop out to you in advance.
Anything else for Coach?
Guys, thanks a lot for having me today. I appreciate it.
I didn't know you were going to remember some things.
What's going on, guys? See some familiar faces there. Good questions for Coach.
Just when you took this job, I mean, how anxious were you and excited to get this opportunity to come to Nebraska?
Oh my gosh. You know, like just being back around Coach. So I went 12, 13 weeks without him, without Coop, T-Knight. You know, those are my guys. So once I got to be back around him, I was like, let's freaking roll.
Garrett, what's the first month or so been like for you to, you know, get settled here, get back into the state of Texas, do some recruiting. Can you just kind of capture for us what these days have been like?
Drinking out of a fire hose a little bit. You can kind of picture that. No, it's been like the most rewarding part is being back around the high school coaches. I got to see Claude Mathis, Scott Stewart, Hank Carter, dear friends of mine, mentors of mine. You guys saw like a tweet I put out about a week ago about high school coaches are my heroes. Well, that's true. You know, I believe in high school football. I believe in the high school experience.
Garrett, what did you get out of the experience with Carolina? Just how much did that help you the last couple of years and dealing with pro athletes and how that can help you moving forward?
Right, yes, sir. Well, what was awesome was I dealt with guys that were a lot older than me. You know, one of the dudes I coached was Andre Roberts, who he made league minimum, which, yeah, league minimum's a lot of money, but he also owned 9 Zaxby's. So that was like a part-time gig for him. But no, seriously, I was around the best of the best, like DJ Moore, Baker Mayfield, Laviska Shenault, who I actually played with or played against in high school. You know, like I was on the phone with DJ this morning, got to say hello to his 2-year-old daughter, who, if you guys get a chance, go look her up on Instagram. She's 2 going on 25. But no, I loved every bit of being in Carolina.
Hey Garrett, Lauren Michelson, Channeling News here in Lincoln. What are some of the conversations been like with your dad throughout this transition?
A lot. Yeah, so I call him about every night. Just, you know, ask him for help. You know, he's his best recruiter. I tell that to everybody. You see him, he goes out on the road by himself, which, you know, there's a lot of respect behind that. And I'm just always like trying to get his evaluation of me. You know, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things? And that's what's so cool about me is like I'm the son of a coach, so I spent 18 years with best coach I know. We were under the same roof, you know. I mean, you know that, Max. You know how close him and I are. But so like I'll ask him about recruiting, but mainly he just keeps going, talk to your players, talk to their players' parents. You know, if you guys were down there 10 minutes ago, there were 6 guys in my room just hanging out, and I was like, hey guys, I got honey buns, I got Pop-Tarts, come on, come get one, you know, just sit there, hang out with me as I'm freaking watching tape and doing all that.
What's it been like for you to get to know those guys, to get to meet those guys, and you know, how do you deal with the dynamic of being the same age as your players, or you know, a little bit older, maybe in some cases even a little bit younger? What's your approach to you know, to just tackling that situation?
Well, what's really cool about the receiver room is we got Texas, Virginia, St. Louis, Cali, Georgia, Florida. You know, we're all over the place. So it's a good group of guys. They're working really, really hard. But, you know, I'm attacking it every way like I can. You know, it's about relationships. I want to know what they're like. I want to know what their parents are like. You know, I want to know their classes. I got a big sign on my board right now of a guy who's not doing well in school. And every time he sees me, every time I just point at the board, you know. So that's pretty cool. It's just a reminder, and like he knows I care, and that's all that matters is, you know, that old Nick Saban quote, they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Andy Kennedy from KTV. You know, some people making a big deal about how young you are to be in your position, but how can that benefit you, work as an advantage, and how would you respond to those that age is just a number?
Yes, sir. Well, you know, I got really lucky being around the people I've been around. You talk about Joe Brady, Ben McAdoo, James Campen, Matt Lombardi, Mike Sarabo, guys that really poured into me, taught me from a young age of how to coach, how to treat people. Obviously, my dad and Coach Rule being the 2 biggest influences on me. So, yeah, you know, I'm probably a little bit ahead of the curveball being, you know, younger. But, you know, like I said, we're just going at it.
Garrett, when you're in high school at Cedar Hill, did you know you probably wanted to get in coaching?
Yes, sir. So in 2nd grade, I knew I probably wouldn't be too much of a football player, and I was going right into coaching. So everything I did, you know, I was 3rd, 4th grade. I'd sleep in the office with my dad. You know how that goes. And, you know, I grew up on you know, we did mat drills on Wednesday. I grew up playing on a wrestling mat. You know, that was my playground. So.
Coach, how did you approach your time at Baylor? I mean, you sat in the quarterback room and kind of got to learn firsthand there. What did you learn there that you can kind of adapt here?
Yes, sir. So what's awesome is a lot of what we're going to do on offense, there's carryover with everywhere I've been. And luckily, like our OC, Coach Sat, obviously Coach Rule was there. And then Coach Sat was in Carolina, and then he went to South Carolina, obviously, and did really good things. So, you know, right now we're like we're speaking in tongues, kind of, to probably some of the other people in the room. But to us, it all makes sense. You know, we're pulling from all these offenses, and the verbiage, you know, it hits our brain. So that's what's really been helpful.
You're a month away, or maybe a little bit over a month away from getting to get out there on the practice field with these guys. And you've got, after recruiting a pretty big group of receivers to work with, what do you anticipate those 15 practices in the spring are going to be like? And for you, what do you want to do in that period of time?
Yes, sir. Well, we have this thing, we want to get 1% better, and I like to do that every single day. You know, what's cool about my room is they're hard workers, and they are competitive. And you can see that on tape, you know, watching some last year's tape, watching guys that have been other places, whether that be other conferences or other schools. And so that standard's already set of how they want to play. And then you add our brand of football, you know, of being the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. That's kind of what I want to look like in April.
Garrett, Evan Bland, Omaha Herald.
Yes, sir.
What's it like having an old teammate of yours, Josh Leaks, as a guy in your position group now? What's that dynamic like?
He's not only an old teammate, he's a good friend. You know, we used to hang out together. First touchdown pass I ever threw in high school was to him. But, you know, like he was sitting there in my office. He was one of those 6-7 guys down there. He was just asking about his son, asking about his dad. I went to school with his older brother. So we're really, really close. What's cool, though, is like, you know, when we were at Baylor, you know, when we were installing the offense, him and I went through a few different coordinators together and a few different systems. So, you know, teaching him and I, he's got a lot of respect for kind of the way we teach. So, you know, it's good. Same way for him. He's got some of the same verbiage carryover for him.
You guys added another transfer in Billy Kemp. Just what he did at Virginia, what do you know about Billy? What attracted you guys to Billy to bring him in as a one-year transfer guy?
Yes, sir. So Billy, you know, being around him, he's a vet of the group. You know, he sees a lot of things. Obviously, this being his 5th, 6th year, I think. But he's a freaking worker, and that's what he's setting the standard of the room of how we want to work. Whether that's mat drills, doing the extra, doing the jugs. But, you know, that's the whole group. Seriously, that's the ethos of that group right now. It's just their work ethic. I've been so impressed with that.
Evan Cooper said you guys get up and work out at like 4:30 or something. Is that right?
So I figured that would come up, and I'm going to be honest, guys. He's beat me in the last 2 days, and it's kind of ticked me off. But, yeah, we're working in there about 4:30. He's on a different program than with me. I was doing squats this morning. He's doing curls. I got to get on that one to look like him.
Could you just talk, though, about how you drive each other? I know Coach Rule said it's not to compete against each other necessarily, but you can drive each other to be better and just how that relationship works.
Right. So one of my favorite things about Coach is, you know how you tape your ankles? Like, you know, you're going to practice. You got to tape your ankles as a coach when you're with him. You got to get ready to go. You know, buckle up because he'll challenge you. You know, and he likes the confrontation, and we all do. So we're competing with each other. You know, when those DBs and receivers go one-on-one, shoot, I wouldn't be surprised if me and Coop go one-on-one.
You said that Coach Rule and your dad are the 2 biggest coaching influences in your life. Obviously, it's easy to understand why your dad would be in that position. You spent less time at Baylor with Coach Rule. Can you explain what you took from him during that time and how he became such an important influence for you?
So the first time I met Coach, he came, spent the night over. Him and my dad were recruiting Dallas. I stayed up all night just trying to meet this guy. You know, I've heard so much about him. But seriously, you know, we have a process, and I believe in our process because I was a part of it. I saw it work. You know, I trust it. You know, you'll see us say trust the process, OOU, all that stuff. But everything I do, the way I talk, walk, act, that's Coach Rule's DNA in reality.
Other questions, guys?
Coach, what does the OOU in one of us, what does that mean to you?
You know, it's just a select group, right? You know, you kind of lay down for the brand, right? So we got a lot of guys that have had a lot of opportunities to go elsewhere, but like this is where they want to be. You know, they want to be around this family. That's kind of my favorite part about being with Coach Rule is like I like seeing Vivi and Leona run up and down the halls. You know, my favorite person in the building is actually Terrence Knighton's son, Jameer. I'd love to go watch him play basketball whenever I can get out of here, but no, that's just one of us. You know, we have a brand, and that OOU shows up kind of every morning.
Eric Evans, with Channel 10 here in town. Some of your colleagues and the new coaches on staff have talked about their memories of Nebraska. Clearly, they remember the 90s. What are your recollections of Nebraska football, and how closely have you watched this program from afar, if at all?
Yes, sir. So obviously wasn't around in the 90s, guys. I know I'm a young guy. But I am a 90s baby. I'm 99, so I count. But honestly, my first memory is Colt McCoy versus Ndamukong Suh, you know, in the Big 12 title game. Because that was kind of a heartbreaker, obviously. But, you know, I'm a Big 12 raised, kind of just being from that area. So obviously watched them, watched Coach Pelini, kept close with Coach Frost. And, you know, he had some guys on staff that I'm close friends with. So, you know, obviously always kept up with Nebraska football.
What's the reception been like? It feels like Nebraska's making headways in Texas big time recruiting, but what have you felt just like in the halls or, you know, in those visits?
Right. Well, you know, we hired so many Texas guys, and then obviously we hit a home run with Dr. Elza. And the waves of Dr. Elza, you know, has really hit the THSCA, but just Coach Rule has earned and gained so much respect there. Because of, you know, how good he was and how he did it the right way at Baylor. And then not only that, like, shoot, one of the greatest coaches of all time is D.W. Rutledge, who was at Converse Judson. Well, shoot, he visited us in Carolina. You know, so that kind of goes to show the relationship not only he had, but just kept throughout, you know, ever since he was at Baylor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.